to the Q Code. Your curiosity quest starts here.
Welcome in, everybody, to the Q Code podcast. Danny, Travis, Alan, and a special guest that we have today. Don't stray too far from the family tree with our guests, but we have Stephen Barnes here, who's going to play a special role in one of our questions today. How you doing, Steve?
Doing well.
Good.
So we didn't want to, we felt like the ratio of 2 Barnes to 1 was not enough. So to compensate, we brought in 3. Now we have a 3/4 majority.
This means that I mean...
We could filibuster.
I am...
Okay, what?
And that doesn't mean that you're filling up something called a buster. It's a political term.
Yeah,
Filibuster.
This reminds me of...
it's basically Congress, when one side has enough power, they can just go, I'm going to talk forever, we're going to just do everything you don't want to do, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Isn't that basically what the government is anyway? Just doing whatever they want to do.
If it gets super one-sided, especially.
This reminds me of Karate Kid 3, though. Does anybody know why?
I guess Steve's fitting right into
The Barnes
Q code.
Boys? Do you remember the Barnes Boys? Weren't there like 3 of them?
On Karate Kid?
Yeah, on Karate Kid 3.
Is there
Remember
the bad guys?
Mr. Silver, and he hires the Barnes Boys to rough up Danielson?
Oh, that's a conundrum for
The
myself.
one movie reference is from Karate Kid 3. There's no reference. Is it just because they're the Barnes Boys? Is that
It's the only
Is that
movie
what
they're
called?
the only Karate Kid movie that they're in.
okay?
That one didn't do as well as number 1 and 2.
There's no other Barnes Boys in any other movie.
That's the only movie I'm aware of.
Yeah, in real life, the Barnes Boys, we always pretended we were like the 3 ninjas. It was Rocky, Colt, and Tom Tom.
Yeah.
It's Tum Tum.
Tum Tum.
Tum Tum.
Tum.
Oh, Tum Tum.
Were you Tum Tum?
Yes.
I was Rocky, Steve was Colt, Alan was
I mean,
Tum
I
Tum.
get it because just the way that the age-wise, everything, the oldest was Rocky, the middle, Steve was Colt, and then the youngest was Tum Tum. I just feel like that was just a real kick to the junk to Alan just because he was a little bit more rounder than you guys.
Yeah.
So,
Not
just
anymore.
because he liked food a little bit more at that time. That was rude. But
Hey, Alan was perfectly happy being Tum Tum.
he had to be.
Okay, we won't get into our childhood issues between me and Dan, but let's just say my nickname growing up from me, he only referred to me as Chup Chup.
That's
Literally.
Oh my gosh.
That's
And
true.
not even
So many
to the
psychological
point where it
issues.
wasn't even like a mean thing anymore. It was just like, hey, Chup Chup.
Alan's had to battle that psychologically for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Did I really? I don't remember that.
Oh.
I remember that too.
You know what? It's starting to really understand a lot of the things that I witnessed as as a young child at the Barnes family house.
Things could get rough at our house.
I really think that there should be a day that we really do go into all of that. However, today is not that day.
We'll just have a whole episode and it's just titled, What Happened to
What
Alan?
happened? Or just what happened in the Barnes home is really what I want to. We have another friend of ours that's going to be visiting in the month of July, and I kind of feel like we should have a sit down talk during that moment, and we can just hash all of this stuff because he was present for a lot of that as well.
What happened in the Barnes home? The true story behind Tum Tum.
We're going to need a 5th microphone.
We would. Or we could just share one. It
one.
doesn't really matter. But we do have a good show today. Before we get into our questions, wanted to give a quick shout out to a few of our fans out there. Now, to kind of give you an idea of what was going on, apparently people are a little bit more, I guess, willing to to listen more on YouTube than the other place. That's just where we're getting the most traction, which is funny because that was also the place that we did not think to really follow at all. We're just like, all right, let's just throw it on YouTube just because it's there. And
Mostly because it's audio, and we figure most
YouTube
people
is
would
video.
Yeah.
So, but I guess a lot of people like it there. And we're getting a lot of good comments and quite a few views. So thank you to everybody out there. Special thanks to users Lunatic0855 and Lindsay Niles, who are our most active commenters. We appreciate it.
They seem to have some really nice comments. Some really, I wouldn't say constructive. They're like, they're just very nice. They make us feel good.
Yeah, especially when it's some good things about me, because I really liked it.
I think being nice is constructive.
Oh, it's constructive for our self-esteems, I guess.
Yeah.
But
And I need all that I can get because I grew up Chub Chub. Just kidding.
It's a book that you should write, Growing Up Chub Chub. So yeah.
or it should just be like from Chub Chub to, and then whatever you want to call yourself now.
God.
Okay, there's some other problems that we have to discuss about that.
Well, he's always devil's advocate.
From
so.
self-image to egotistic.
Yeah.
But yeah, we thank you guys for participating and for your comments. We really like to hear that. Share our podcast with as many people as you can, and make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube page, and then, of course, to everywhere else. I mean, literally go to everything we have and click subscribe.
Just because you're subscribed to YouTube doesn't mean you can't go listen to us on Apple Podcasts.
Or check out our
subscribe there.
Instagram page.
Go to Instagram, Facebook.
Speaking of Instagram, we also have to just mention real quick the situation that happened a couple days ago that literally made it so that I could not work all day.
I was in a similar boat, though. Like, I was trying to, but then I just kept... Well, I had to, like I told you, Trev, I had to turn off my notifications because I still had notifications from Instagram every time that we got a new follower. And my phone just started blowing up. And that's what started this entire fiasco.
I was at lunch, and as I'm coming back, my phone keeps vibrating from messages that I have from Danny and Alan. And they're just talking about, like, where are all these Instagram followers coming from? And so I go on there, and, you know, we're just starting out. So I think we had like less than 100.
Yeah, we had like 93, 94, I think, that start
followers.
that morning.
And it just kept going up and up and up. Every time I opened up my phone, we had like another 100 followers, and we peaked at 1360. Now, by me saying this, don't think that we are super naive that, you know, all of a sudden tons of people just found us super interesting.
We just hit the big time, like all of a sudden.
We're like, oh my gosh, we're famous. Like, what are we going to do? We start talking about how we're actually going to spend all the money that we're going to be making off of our social medias. No, that's not what actually happened. We know that somehow, because most of the people that started following us there were like businesses and things like that. And hey, thank you. If you're listening, thank you for following us. We appreciate that. But we also know that there's a real good chunk of you that just want us to follow you back, and you're not even listening to us. So
yeah, if you like actually write a quote, like quote something that we say in one of our podcast episodes to us as a comment, we'll follow you back.
like, quote this: Travis is a sexy beast. You do that, we will know it's legit.
No way somebody's going to say that on their own.
Burn, Steve. Well, that's not your first time on here, but second time you're already making me feel bad. Chub. Just kidding. So, but yeah, so that was an interesting thing. Now it's starting to we're starting to lose the ones that are obviously not interested. But you know what? We're thankful for the ones that are following us because they want to follow us and they're listening and they want to learn.
If of that 1,300, we have 13 of you that are true fans, that means the world to us.
Yes, even if it is just 2, but 2 can turn into 4.
And 8.
16. So yes, we can all do math. But all right, well let's get going today. Dan, why don't you tell everyone what is on the docket for the day?
All right, so today we have another good episode for you. We're going to get into 3 different questions like we always do. The first question is high-frequency trading still a problem? And if you don't know what high-frequency trading is, don't worry. We will do our best to explain that to you. That's the segment in which we will be talking to Steve, who is an expert in that area. Follow that with how would you react to a real life trolley problem? Alan's gonna head that question, but we're gonna get into some moral and ethical dilemmas there and have a discussion about that. And then finally, we'll get into why do video game movies suck? And the Trav will spearhead that one, and I think he's got some good info for us on that. And I've actually done some statistical analysis as well for that. So stay tuned for all of that. You don't want to miss any of it. And why don't we just get right into the first question?
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vin Diesel.
I looked for like some kind of stock market quote, but those are boring. So
I'm sure there had to have been one in Wolf of Wall Street.
no, I'm sure there's some good ones out there, but
but finding one without the F-bomb might be.
And I was looking for one in that Boiler Room movie because there was one that I actually wanted to use, but I could not find a clip of it. So finally I'm like, going to the good old standby.
Is it
Diesel, Fast and Furious?
Is it the whoever says money is the ruler of all evil doesn't have any, and then he throws his Ferrari keys on the table? He's like, look at that, that's a Ferrari. Smile from ear to ear, baby.
I don't think that is quite how that scene went.
Yeah, it is. Whatever.
Well, let me start out.
Yes, no, that is one of them, and that's not the one I was looking for. It's another one that is pretty long, but I can't quote it right off the top of my head.
Whatever.
But yeah, so to start out, like I said, my brother Steve is a quote unquote expert, but I don't know why I put it in quotes. He's an expert in this area, so we're going to talk to him and interview him a little bit on is high frequency trading still a problem. But to get into that, Trav is going to do a little intro for Steve. So take it away, Trav.
So Stephen Barnes is a lawyer by day, but an avid philosopher of the stock market by night. He has studied and traded in equity markets since he was a young boy and continues to learn all things related to financial markets. I can tell you that he has been doing this since a little boy because he frequently would ask for money from me. He's like, Trav, hey, just give me $100. I'll turn it into 200. You would think that he had a gambling problem, but he just really loved the stocks. He has written and published a Kindle book by the title of Regulating High-Frequency Trading, an examination of U.S. equity market structure in light of the May 6, 2010 flash crash. It's a
simple title.
I've realized why he has put so many words in that title. It's because like when people are looking at it on Amazon and they're just searching for books with any word in it, they will find his book.
Keywords. More the merrier.
But yeah, his book is available on Amazon, so you should check it out.
If you have any interest in this subject or this area, it's a short book. It's about 67 pages or something like that. I was able to.
It's long in my book.
I took my
Kindle
time
pages.
going through it because I wanted to kind of really soak it in and then just also highlight a bunch of spots and I kind of knew I wanted to talk to Steve about it, but I still was able to read it in probably like 2 hours total reading time. So it's not bad.
I want to just point out before you get going on this how hurt I am, Stephen. You wrote this back in 2012, and I didn't know that you published a book. If I would have published a book, I would have told everybody.
Hey, Trav, don't feel bad because his brother, just found out like 2 months ago. He was like, "Oh, I have a book
Why
on
are you
Amazon."
not
I was like,
shouting
"What?"
from the rooftops?
It's not necessarily like leisure reading.
Doesn't matter.
So,
See, that's the difference between me and him. Like, I do the smallest little thing of like accomplishment that really means nothing, and I'm like, I have to tell everyone. They need to see it. Steve,
You could have just been like,
oh, yeah, I wrote a book back in the day.
I wrote a book. It's published. It might be boring to you, but check it out.
Alan will call me and he'll be like, I pooped. I'm like, what? He's like, I pooped all by myself.
Well, you know what? On the toilet that he has, I applaud him. That thing is like so tall.
That's true.
Like I sit on.
It's
I'm
perfect for
6'3".
you.
I'm 6'3", and I sit on it, and my feet dangle.
How do you think I feel?
I have a hard time. You guys just look like little tiny.
You gotta like have a step stool to get up there.
It's kind of like a battle internally for me when I sit on that because I'm a lot shorter than Trav. So you know how naturally when you go up somewhere high, your butt puckers.
What?
What?
But then at the same time,
I don't think you can say butt puckers on.
But I don't know. I'm trying to go to the bathroom at the same time, so it's hard. You have to fight these internal urges.
I don't know what that
I
means.
don't think anybody else has a problem with that. Like
I thought that was like a common thing.
I've gone to the bathroom in an airport or in an airplane bathroom.
Let's remember. This is coming from the guy who was passed out twice on the toilet.
We'll have to talk about that.
We'll
later.
have to get into that. Yeah.
Okay, let's get into high frequency trading.
Yeah.
Although I don't know how we can now after you said butt puckers.
All right, so yeah, high frequency trading. So let's just get into this. So Steve, do you mind explaining what high frequency trading is? Do you have maybe an example that would help the common layman understand what high frequency trading is?
Just say it how you want to say it. Do you have a way to explain it that I, Travis, will understand?
So first off, before we get into it, I just want to correct the record. So Travis said that I would ask him for money and all the time, but Travis, actually, the only business deal that I remember doing with you, I totally got ripped off.
You got your gerbils later.
I never got my gerbils.
You bought them later.
So really quick, as children, Travis and I, his neighborhood was like a new neighborhood and they were constructing new houses all the time. So that summer, we went to the store with whatever money we had. I think we both put up equal amount of money. We purchased a bunch of off-brand soda for really cheap. And then we put them in a cooler with ice, walked around in a wagon, and sold it for double or triple our cost to all the construction workers.
We were making a killing.
Yeah, it was
it was all in an effort to purchase gerbils.
Yeah. That was the end goal. So we were going to make this money. The plan was make the money. We'd go to the pet store, J&L pet store, and we'd buy us some gerbils. We'd each have one. Little did I know, after I went home, Travis and his little brother took all the money, went to this pet store, and bought gerbils for themselves.
I just want to tell you that, yes, I am at fault for that, but so are you because you left the money in my hands. I am an 11-year-old boy with $30 and a need for a gerbil.
Could you imagine that in the banking system? You left with money in my hands, so that's why your account's empty.
Anyway.
I bought $100,000 worth of gerbils.
It's a good investment.
With your money.
So many gerbils. But all right, so we should probably focus a little bit on this.
So back to high frequency trading. So I guess to explain high frequency trading, maybe it would be good to tell you a true story of something that happened in 2009-ish time period. And so this story actually can be found in Michael Lewis's book, Flash Boys.
So this is before 2010, the Flash crash in 2010.
This is before. So I mean, high frequency trading kind of. So just to put it succinctly, high frequency trading is a type of trading where proprietary traders, they'll trade millions of shares back and forth at rapid speed and high frequency, hence the term high frequency trading.
There's where it comes
and they
from.
do it with like computers and algorithms, and so it's so fast that humans couldn't ever do that. And so I guess the story of high frequency trading actually starts back in early 2000s. When in 2002, for instance, you still had like the majority of trading happening with human beings. You would have to place an order with your broker, and then an actual human would execute your orders. But then the SEC came out with rules that made it so that like digital or electronic trading with computers made a lot of sense, and so that kind of came into play, and you had computers starting to do the trading.
So is this like the early days of like Ameritrade and E-Trade and those platforms, Scottrade?
Yeah, so those were all coming into being, and then in like 2000. I guess late 2000s, then you really had these high frequency trading shops popping up. And so what they would do is they would use their speed advantage to get ahead of human traders, right? So they could trade much more quickly than humans could. And so to explain it with another example, if you are on a highway and you're driving in a truck and some like super fast motorcycle breezes by you on the highway and buys up all the gas in front of you, then once you get to like the next gas station, right, that motorcycle driver tries to sell you the gas at a higher price because he's bought up all the gas. So one strategy that high frequency traders
At first,
It's
I
just
was
an
thinking
example.
He like took the gas. I'm like, how is he carrying all that gas?
Yeah.
But no, I get it. Okay, so he goes ahead and he tells the gas station attendant, "I'm purchasing all the gas you have, and I'm going to resell it."
Yes. So this is called front running in the industry, and
Isn't that what like every retailer does?
front running. I don't know.
Like no, there's
Buy it wholesale and then sell it
yeah,
for more.
they're the middleman.
retailing.
Just like the
I don't know.
like any
like Walmart.
Yeah,
Yes, I mean,
Well,
they buy all the stuff from the warehouse for cheap, and then they mark it up like 30%. Never mind.
But this is it's a little different because so
I get you.
yeah, he's talking about high frequency trading, and he acts like he doesn't know what retail is.
I know what retail is. Think about it as okay. So you're trying to buy a stock for, let's say, $20 a share, right? And you're about to, or you actually push your buy button or trade button, with your online broker or whatever. These high frequency traders, they have certain speed advantages, and we'll get into that in a second. So they can actually see orders coming down the pipe. They can hurry and buy up the shares that were selling for $20. And so now there's no longer shares selling for $20. So they buy it for $20, and then they automatically sell it maybe for $20.01. So by the time your order gets there, now it's $20.01. But they knew you were coming.
And this is all speed of light.
Yeah, and we'll get into that too. So the way it's been described is like the high frequency traders, they know the end of the horse race, while everyone else still thinks the horse race is happening, and so then they can place their bets accordingly.
So it's a distinct advantage, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and so all right. So to continue this story, so in Michael Lewis's book Flash Boys, which came out after my book, so I like to think that I inspired his book, because my book was basically on this topic, and I cite the same story in my book, although I spend like a paragraph on it, and he spends like a whole chapter talking about this particular story. But there's a guy named, I think his name is Daniel Spivey, and he was a trader in the high frequency industry. And this was, I think, 2008, 2009. And it became a game of speed. So you have all these firms out there, proprietary trading firms, that are making billions from employing these high frequency trading strategies, basically getting ahead of other slower traders. And he was trying to figure out, he was obsessed with trying to create a faster trading mechanism. And so a lot of the strategies involved trading on like minor differences in prices between Chicago and New Jersey, where you have like two major financial centers, right? In Chicago, you have futures trading, and in New Jersey / New York, you've got stock trading. And so they would trade on differences between the futures market and the stock market. And so what he did is like, he was thinking one day, like, hey, if I can lay a fiber optic cable in a straight line between Chicago and New Jersey, then I would have the fastest like fiber optic line for trading in existence. And so he did a bunch of research, figured out nobody else has done this before. None of the telecom companies like Verizon or whatnot had thought about this. And so he raised him and I can't remember the guy's name, but it was like the founder of Netscape, if you remember Netscape.
Oh yeah.
So he got that guy to put up $300 million to build this like half-inch fiber optic cable that would hold 400 glass fibers. And so the plan was to bury that line and go straight from Chicago to New Jersey. And the reason why they wanted to be so straight, because the straight line is the shortest distance between 2 points, right?
So like when we're saying straight, or when Steve's just saying straight, he literally means they wanted it to go as straight as possible. And if that meant like having to like pay people off to be able to cut through their property, that's what they were trying to do. And only if there was just no way around something would they put like a slight turn in it.
Yeah, like in Flash Boys, it goes into a lot of detail. He's saying like, yeah, they drilled through like hard limestone mountains, and they would like take them, they would go like a few hundred feet a day, and they're just doing like a small hole, and it was top secret. Like none of the construction workers knew what in the heck was the purpose.
So
of
almost like
this line.
back in like when they built the railroads.
Yeah, kind of. But like,
except for like they would hire crews of like 6 men at a time to work on it, but they didn't know that there was other crews of 6 men working on it like elsewhere.
Oh, so nobody had like the full.
Yeah, so they are like each crew might know like, oh, we're working on this 2-mile thing, but they had no idea that this whole thing was going to stretch from Chicago all the way to New York.
Yeah, because they were like obsessed with secrecy. So yeah, they had like each crew had their own segment of the line that they were going to build. So anyway, so he gets done building this. I want to say in 2009-ish or something like that. And like they hadn't even gone out to see if these proprietary high frequency trading firms would pay to use their line to trade. But he started going around, and like everyone was like so excited about this. And so the plan was they had 400 fibers in there, right? You need one to go one direction and one to go the other. So they could sell up to 200 200 firms could be their customer. And so
200 connections.
Yeah,
basically.
200 connections. And so they were like, and at the time, I think the book says there were 400 proprietary trading firms employing these strategies. And so it's like, basically they were telling people like, only half of you will be able to do this. If you don't do this, you will be slower than these other 200, and you will go out of business because it's all about speed.
They wanted to start a bidding war.
Yeah, it's the need for speed. So they ended up...
I'm going to mention the need for speed later.
What a coincidence.
I knew that was coming as soon as he said that. I was like, oh, Trav's going to be excited about this.
Wait, I don't know if you know the answer to this question. Is there any... when making like high frequency trades, does bandwidth matter? Like each connection?
I don't think it takes like a whole lot of bandwidth to like send the data. This is not like a ton of data, but it's just you need super fast connection. So like in the end, this straight, I think it was like 800 something miles. I think they were shooting for 840 miles as their goal, and they actually got it down to 827 miles. Because they were like literally like they had to like pay off like farmers to go through their cornfields, and like they had
like
weird
underneath like people's parking lots and businesses.
And then negotiate with the business. Like one business was like an ice cream factory, and they're like, well, if we expand, we don't want you to bury your line there in the parking lot. We might need that. And that was like the last piece they needed. And they're like, and then finally the guy caved and they did it and finished the line. But like he was so obsessed that like if the construction crew was like, hey, the right of way is on the right side of the road here, and then it goes under the road and to the left side starting at this point. And this Daniel Spivey guy was like, can you, like, I don't want to go under the road because then I have to make a 90-degree turn, go under the road, and go out, and then I can continue going straight on the other side of the road. And so he would, like, make them, if they were going to cross the road, they would have to do it, like, diagonally, gradually, because that would be a little bit straighter, because it would shave off, like, 300 nanoseconds. And so in the end, like, I think at the time, firms could trade between Chicago and New York at like, I think he said it was like 17 milliseconds. And a millisecond is 1,000th of a second. And after they built this line, their line could do it in 13. And so they shaved off like 3 or 4 milliseconds. But that was worth a lot.
A nanosecond, is that a millionth or a billionth of a?
It's a billionth.
A millionth.
I thought nano.
A nano? Oh, no. Yeah, micro is
a
a million.
billionth. Yeah, a nano is a billionth. So anyway, so he ended up selling.
Do you have any idea how deep it went? Because like the Earth curves, so you could make even a straighter line if you went deeper. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I don't know if they got that.
I don't think they went that deep.
Yeah.
Like,
well, somebody's gonna do it now, even quicker.
Well, so in the end, he ended up selling each connection. You know, you could sell 200 of them for about $14 million for a 5-year lease of the line. And so they ended up collecting $2.8 billion from their initial 5-year lease.
Chump change.
$300 million invested and $2.4 billion. It's pretty good.
It's good
return.
ROI.
But they calculated that, you know, whoever employed these strategies over those 5 years would make like multiples of billions times that, like by using this line. So that just gives you an idea of like how much money people are making off this.
I don't want to surprise any of you with this. I know I actually talked about this with Danny the other day when he was bringing this up to me, but I somehow know about all of this, and I don't know why. And I think it's because they're making a movie about this.
Yeah.
And I just tried to look it up, but I know I've seen the trailer.
Yeah, so I actually looked at this yesterday in preparation because I was like, yeah, I swear, like they were going to make Michael Lewis's book Flash Boys into a movie because he's already got 3 other books that are movies, right?
Yeah.
Blindside and Moneyball and what was the other one? The Big Short.
Big Short.
Yeah. So, but it looks like, I guess, I forget what studio, they just sold the rights to Netflix. So it looks like it's going to be a Netflix movie.
Oh, but yeah, I've seen it, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting concept. And then you started talking about it, Dan, and I was like, why do I know this?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of interesting characters.
I am not interested in this stuff.
I didn't know this is a real story.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was a good explanation. More thorough than I expected. So thank you, Stephen. That was question number 1 that I had.
Trying to hit off like a lot of these questions.
So
all at once.
Yeah, we'll skip through some of these, but
How many questions do you have?
well, I had 12.
12 questions!
So we will be here for 12 hours of.
I just took care of 11 of them.
Okay, good.
But yeah, so Steve, he just gave us like a description of what high frequency trading is and kind of how they will use this to. He used an example earlier when he was talking about how they could see an order coming in for $20 and they would hurry and buy it up and then sell it for $20.01, and that's how they would make some money on that spread. Doing that thousands or millions of times a day would add up quickly. So from that, let's just jump into the flash crash really quick. So that's like the biggest, most well-known thing that occurred from high-frequency trading to this point. But in, like the title of your book says, on May 6, 2010, there was a flash crash that occurred in the stock market, which I believe, was it about 1,000 points of the stock market? The Dow Jones dropped?
Yeah, so
1,000
it was...
points a lot. That's all I remember.
Stay the course.
Stay the course. 1,000 points a lot. Okay.
Yeah, so this May 6th, I think in the afternoon, The stock market, in a span of 20 minutes, stock market lost $1 trillion in value. Some stocks were down a lot more than others, which we can get into in a second on why. But what happened was it was kind of a culmination of things, is my understanding. And at the time, I was actually interning at the SEC, so it was kind of interesting to have this in the news because I was working for the SEC, who was involved in trying to figure out what happened. But
so did you get to personally go try to figure it out, or
no? I was not like in that department.
But, hey, intern, get me coffee while I figure this out.
Right away, Mr. Baker.
No, but I think that kind of like played into me. So this book was basically came out of writing a paper in law school. That was kind of my thesis paper for law school. So I was writing on high frequency trading and regulation behind it because of this flash crash. That kind of more than anything, the flash crash like made people realize that, hey, maybe like all this algorithmic electronic trading is a potential issue, and nobody's really been paying attention to it.
Judgment Day.
Yeah,
Told you guys about that last week.
Dun, 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 dun.
I saw the new trailer.
Yeah.
So anyway, they think, I don't know if anybody knows for sure exactly how it happened, but it had something to do with a firm that like sold, their algorithm was like set incorrectly, and so it was just told to like sell S&P mini E-mini futures, which are one of the most popular futures contracts out there, to hedge their long stock positions. So it was just like the market was going down that day. I think it was down 4% anyway because of turmoil in Europe, and this was like around the time when
Greece thing.
Yeah, Greece was like people thought that they were going to default on their debt,
collapse and stuff.
Yeah, and so there's
musical. I'm just kidding.
The movie stopped selling well in 2010,
Is this one
but it
Grease?
had a good 30-year run.
and so the market was already jittery that day.
And then they dumped a bunch of cheap shares out.
Well,
on the
and
market.
so this like algorithm sold into the market a bunch of S&P E-mini futures, which dropped the price of the futures contracts.
Yeah.
And then everybody else is like, oh, like the futures market's dropping. Must be some big like news or some big event happen, and the market is crashing, right? And so then everybody else's algorithms like fed on that, and we're like, it's going down, and everybody's like, sell. And then to make matters worse, over the years since the early 2000s, these high frequency traders, they replaced what I will call traditional money or market makers. Yeah. And traditional market makers were regulated by the SEC. They had certain rules, like they had to provide liquidity no matter what the market's doing. So even if like there's a panic, they're supposed to always have a bid and an ask, or bid and an offer, you can say, which is like a bid is, how much they're willing to buy a share of stock at, like Apple, we're willing to buy it for 100. And then an ask is how much they're willing to sell that same stock for. So maybe I'll sell it for $100.05. So I have a bid at 100 and an ask at 105 cents. So it's a 5 cent spread there.
Keep saying ass.
Ask with a K. Maybe I should just say offer. Offer's another word for it.
So you got a big ass.
You hear what you want to hear. Anyway, okay. So
Stock market would be so much more exciting with
it's very hard to keep my concentration.
So you have to have a bid.
Yeah, like
for every
traditionally,
ask.
if you're a market maker,
every day there's millions of big ass.
So you have to have
want to be in the stock market.
You have to have the same number of both.
well, you
match
just
up.
have to like be there in the market to offer liquidity. So if somebody wants to buy or somebody wants to sell, there's always should be somebody there to give them one side or the other. And you can move them up and down as the market goes up, but you got to like keep them like reasonably there. And so what happened over the years is like these high frequency traders came out and they outcompeted. Is that a word? Outcompeted the traditional money. I want to say. I keep saying money
Market
makers.
Tongue twisters, man.
And they kind of like went by the wayside and were replaced by these high frequency traders. And these high frequency guys are like, hey, like we're much better. We trade much faster. We're much more sophisticated. Our computers, like, we'll make better markets and tighter spreads. And we provide a lot of liquidity to the market. But the flash crash showed when times are like panicky, these new market makers, which are the high frequency traders, they just stop trading. They just, instead of having a bid and an ask.
Sorry.
Oh, what's Chuck's problem?
I can't help it now.
I'm not going to be able to say that anymore. Instead of having,
those two things.
They actually still had them, but they set them like super wide to basically. the spread.
Yeah, so the spread was super wide.
No way that you say this comes out okay. See, the thing is, I have already implanted into everybody's mind that is listening to this that every time you say that, you're just talking about a butt.
And it's been spread
of that
super
talk.
wide.
Spread super wide right now.
Anyway,
So
Danny love talking about butts.
yeah. So I think Apple, for instance, had a bid at like 1 cent and then an ask at like $100,000. And so, like, they're willing to buy Apple at 1 cent and then sell it for like $100,000.
which basically means that no one's going to do it.
Yeah, like if you take it, then great. And actually, some of them got hit because other people who, like, other just normal, investors who are placing sells or buys into the market accidentally bought at those prices because that's what it suddenly got spread and super fast. Like everybody just went to the wayside, and like that. Yeah, so all the liquidity just dried up. And so one of the problems with high frequency trading is that, and replacing the traditional market makers, is that now maybe the liquidity that's there and you see most of the time is really like phantom liquidity because when times get tough, it just disappears. And so that was a big issue, and that was kind of a point in my book, is that something's got to be done to regulate these high frequency trades. If they're going to be the market makers now, then they maybe should have the same obligations that traditional market makers used to have.
Yeah.
So really quickly, I just want to do my best to explain this in 30 seconds or less, because you used a lot of technical jargon, especially bid, ask, and wide spreads. Yep. So, but in essence, and Steve, if I'm like way off on something, let me know. But ultimately, there's humans let computers run a lot of things due to the fact that they created these algorithms that they said, okay, they gave them certain rules to say, if this happens, then do this. If this happens, then do this. And that day, because of the triggering of the market taking a dip anyway, basically created this network-wide algorithm trigger. And when one algorithm got triggered, it triggered another algorithm, which triggered another algorithm. And that's what kind of just ultimately caused everything to go haywire and out of control. And then ultimately, like you said, these high-frequency traders, they decided just to shut down for the day and cut off the liquidity, which then caused more problems in the market.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Good job.
All right, so let's just skip down to is high frequency, and just you can keep this short, but is high frequency trading a bad thing in your opinion?
I think some strategies are like the front running and the issues like the phantom liquidity, but there's other aspects of it that I think a lot of people agree have been good for the market. Like generally, they provide liquidity, tighter spread, so that's been good. But there's still aspects that are not good.
Okay. And then are they still around to this day? Because I know there was a lot of talk after the 2010 flash crash that they wanted to try and get it under control, or at least control, like you said, the negative things, the fact that they could have, just leave the market and leave phantom liquidity or other negative things. Are there things that have been put in place that have kind of controlled those now, and now high frequency traders are no longer an issue, or are they still a problem?
So there's been, I think, new rules and regulations put in place that kind of help and protect us from like a flash crash situation, like circuit breakers, which we don't have to get into, but basically like they'll halt the market for, if it drops by a certain percentage, they'll halt the market so everybody can get like their heads screwed back on, like, so they don't panic.
So that shuts down the entire market at once?
Yeah. So in individual stocks and like the market as a whole, I believe like certain percentage drops in a certain amount of time, they'll just like freeze everything.
It's like a water break.
Yeah.
Water break.
It's like a timeout.
Yeah. It's like,
all right, timeout, guys.
Cool off.
Timeout. We don't want to have another, Great Depression. So we're just going to stop right now.
So yeah, it's gotten better. And also I read that the competition always drives down profits, right? So you don't hear so much about high frequency trading being an issue and like being this like huge industry that steals money from the everyday investor, because I guess, competition has made their profits smaller. So now they're not stealing as much, but it's still an issue. They're still essentially front running people and stealing money, just not as much because competition has made it
there's
less
more
lucrative.
Thieves.
Yeah, it's like
So
everyone's trying to compete against each other.
They get a smaller piece of the pie.
Yeah.
So, and there was one other thing, I can't remember if you talked about it in your book or if I read this somewhere else, but basically the whole idea of having some kind of latency or delay in the market to force it. Because I know part of this whole high frequency trading thing was not just about the connection itself, but it was an ability to get closer to like the stock exchange servers that were processing the orders, and therefore they were that much closer and that much faster at processing and making trades, right?
Yeah.
So did they ever implement something that would basically say like, okay, all trades that come in, we hold for 1 second or whatever, and that should give everyone, no matter what their connection is, the same opportunity to get there, and then at random we will process those orders so that like there's not one person that always gets to be first?
Yeah, so that was definitely proposed, and that's what I proposed in my paper as one fix, is to have like a mandatory batching of orders. So like all stock market orders that come in like a 1 second time period get batched together, and they have like an auction. I don't know if it's called like a Dutch auction or whatever, and match the trades, right? So the shortest like trading interval is like 1 second is the proposal, instead of like nanoseconds or milliseconds. I don't think that was ever implemented, although like by law that you had to do that. But there are a couple of exchanges now. One of them is called the Investors Exchange, that was started by Brad Katsuyama, who's like the main character in the Flash Boys book. So he ended up creating an exchange called the Investors Exchange because they were supposed to be, on the investors' side and not allow high frequency trading on their exchange. And so that exists, and I think it's like growing and doing well. And then I think the New York Stock Exchange, I just read in preparation for this podcast, like somewhat recently, may be doing something along those lines. But I don't know. That could be just a false article that I read. But yeah,
never know. Okay, well, I mean that's good. I mean, just the final question for this, and we can wrap it up. But so, if I'm sure Trav, you have a 401k, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Trav has probably got some exposure to the market. Should somebody like myself, like Trav, like you, just any person, normal person like us who don't have access to some kind of high frequency platform, how should we feel about investing in the market? I mean, are we at a disadvantage at this point, or is it? I mean, are we at least somewhat on a even playing field and shouldn't worry too much about high frequency trading.
So Trav should just give me his money.
Okay. I was actually going to tell you, okay,
Just kidding.
Because Steve wants to buy a gerbil.
I own one stock, one share of Groupon. I will sell, and I want you to take that money and see what you can turn it into.
It's like $3.
This is a challenge. See what you can do.
See.
Gotta start in the penny stocks.
I will do this because I'm interested, and we will document it. You take my
Let's
share.
see. How much is that
I
worth?
don't know. I haven't been on my Robinhood app in like forever. So
Wait, is that like the
Hey,
Got
I
it through
have-
Robinhood.
I use
It's
that
gonna
the
be less
free
than
stock?
$5.
yes, it's the free stock
that
I got.
you got
Yep.
from Robinhood?
Robinhood. Groupon.
I never
one
got
share.
my free one.
Did somebody recommend you? You can't
Yeah.
just get one for signing on.
I got
well,
Zynga.
I thought Alan recommended me.
Don't, yeah.
Okay.
Did you? I don't know.
Trav, Groupon is worth $3.50.
Okay.
Okay.
So-
that will be my challenge.
It's your challenge. We'll see what we can do. You can be my stockbroker. Okay. All right. We done?
I think that was it. Unless you have anything else to add to that, Steve.
I'm sure he does.
But my serious answer was just going to be like, yeah, like I don't think individual investors have to worry too much about this. If you have a long-term view, it's not really going to matter too much.
Sweet. Well, thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. I mean, really, honestly, that was really good, insightful information. Put way better than I could have put it. So, thanks for helping and sharing that information with us. So, but now let's get into the next question, Alan's question. How would you react to the real life trolley problem?
Well, let's have some more make-believe as the trolley goes by the castle garden in the neighborhood of make-believe.
Who's the one lady, the one puppet in Mr. Rogers that had like the big red nose? Like it wasn't like a red nose. It was like a
She was like the royalty.
Yeah, no, she was like a rashy nose or whatever. She always scared me. I don't know why.
I remember the king,
She seemed like an angry woman.
and I
although
remember,
probably
wasn't there like a prince?
Yeah.
Was she like a baker?
No, I think the queen. I think the queen is who you're talking about, and she had like a old raspy voice. Like
Yeah, I don't think she was the queen though. But anyway, all right, we could go about that for a while too. So yes, Alan, why don't you explain what the trolley problem is?
All right. Well, first, have any of you before this? Did any of you guys know what the trolley problem even was?
Yes.
You were familiar.
And I only know about it because I watched The Good Place, and there's an episode where it really talks about that. So,
yeah, I was
think-
talking to someone at work about I was going to do this on this episode, and they brought that up and showed it to me on YouTube, like a clip of that.
I think I learned it on a show years ago called Brain Games. Did you guys ever watch that? It was like a not a documentary.
Yeah, I've seen
but
that
it was
on
like
Netflix.
Well, it is on Netflix now, but I think it
Anyways,
used to be on
we're
a
not-
different station.
we I've noticed we always go to like TV shows and movies, and we go on tangents.
and you
for like 5
wonder
minutes.
why I choose the topics I do.
So I'm gonna shut that down right now. We're not going on a whole Netflix tangent. But if you don't know what the trolley problem is, and just I'm from Utah, we don't have trolleys, right? I mean, we have tracks, Salt Lake.
We have Trolley
it's a
Square,
train.
which is
A shopping.
shopping.
I don't like
restaurant
trolleys. I'm not
area.
a trolley person, so I'm just gonna say it's the train problem.
All right.
So imagine you're standing on a hill overseeing a set of train tracks, and a train is careening out of control, unable to stop, going down the track directly toward 5 workers on the track that like have headphones on, and their back is turned to the train, so they have no idea that this train is coming. The train cannot stop. You suddenly realize you're standing next to a switch that if you switch it, it'll switch the train onto a different set of tracks and miss the 5 people. But the caveat is there is one worker on the second set of tracks that the train will hit and kill. and you cannot warn them. The only control you have is to either switch to track 2 and kill the one person, or do nothing and
let
the 5 people die. So that's the train problem.
It's interesting because you go through that whole thing, and luckily, I mean, I know what the train/trolley problem is, but the only thing I could hear after you got to caveat was caveat. I know it's like
caveat.
I know it's like tomato, but yeah, like I always say caveat, and I got really hung up on that. So I have my own problem.
Well, that's an understatement. You have your own problems, plural. As we have found from reading various dreams of yours.
That's true. It's a beautiful mind.
So are you asking what you would do in that situation?
Well, so I'm going to ask you guys. You guys, obviously, you know what it is. Mm-hmm. You probably thought about it before. What would you do?
Well, the problem is...
And why? What's your reasoning for what you would do?
These are just random people. Well, if you've seen the episode of The Good Place where they go over this, the main or the character that's dealing with this situation, this ethical dilemma, goes through it over and over and over again, just killing people over and over and over again, and he can't handle it because he's all about ethics and how there is usually, a right or wrong answer, but really when you're dealing with ethics, a lot of times it's not as black and white. It's gray. And so basically what we're going to get out of this is there is no right or wrong answer, because how can you say that the right way to do it is still going to kill somebody? Yes, if you do not switch it and 5 people die, you're actually not doing anything physically to create the deaths of somebody, but you are not doing something to save.
It's an act of omission.
Yes, an act of omission. But if you do switch it, then you are the one that is pretty much to blame for the one death.
It's an act of commission.
I think if you...
Thank you, Steven.
If you take it from its most base logical standpoint, right? Like, so if you're taking out the emotion from it and you just say flat out, you're making a decision between saving the lives of 5 people to give up the life of 1, you have to do that as far as just from a very logical...
If you look at it just as a numbers game.
Yeah, you're saving 5 lives, taking 1, but you're now plus 4 lives, I guess you could say it that way. But, and I'm sure what you're going to do next is we're going to go into a little bit, maybe even tweak the problem a little bit or whatever, to make it more of a difficult choice when it comes down to it, because we're not just we're not robots, but there's automatons. Is that?
We're autonomous beings?
No, like,
or what?
We are not automatons.
Is it automatons a word?
Sure, I think so.
But yeah, there's more depth to us as human beings. We have morals, we have feelings, we have emotions, we have all these different things that go into play that make it more difficult than just a straightforward logical, this is the answer. So
yeah,
that would be that. But yeah, do you want to go into the next portion of this?
Are you assuming he has a next portion? What if he doesn't have a next portion?
I thought I would assume, but
I have my whole outline right here, Danny.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm
all right. We'll do it what you want to do. Okay.
Is this Danny's topic?
So let me
we already
scrap
did
this.
your topic.
No. Steve, do you have a quick answer
to that scenario?
Yeah.
I think that's an easy case.
Okay.
Says the lawyer.
Go for the 5 people.
So,
says the psychopathic lawyer.
So
you kill as many people as possible.
Yes, what Trav was
that
talking.
Means I get to cake on that many more cases.
So what Trav was talking about is kind of correct. It's this. Why do people think about this? Why is this even a thought experiment? And a thought experiment is just something that you can think about and imagine in your head and try and play it through. it's because of those questions in like psychology and ethics and morality of what exactly is morality, what is moral, what should govern our ethics as human beings. So that's why people even think about this philosophically. And then, so you were talking, Danny, about different, like, tweaking the scenarios. And there are, you know, like, if you look it up, 5 minutes, you'll go through, like, all these different scenarios on YouTube that they'll show you. And I thought those were kind of boring because, you know, it really is just like, well, now swap out the one for, what if it's your kid? Now, what if the one person is, like, a villain that tied up the other 5 on the track? Are you going to be even more willing to kill that one? Like, you want to now kill that one. But so I actually thought of like this in my head. Like, I was like, this is just like a very familiar thing that I know I have seen in different iterations my whole life in Hollywood or pop culture. So I was like trying to think of different examples.
I got one, if you don't say it.
Okay. So they might not be exactly the same, but they are like the same type of like morality questions that this brings up. So you've seen Infinity War, spoiler alert, Thanos, do they call it the snapping? I think that's a term.
It's the snapping.
Or the snap.
He snaps, but
So-
I didn't know there was a name for it.
So Thanos is the villain, and his goal is to get all this Infinity Stones so he can kill half the population of the whole universe. And because I think they say that there aren't enough resources.
Are limited.
Everything's overpopulated. Yeah.
Really, it's just
So-
an economic question.
We're not going to get into economics.
So putting that into like form of the trolley problem or train problem, I just wrote, this is what Thanos is thinking. I can do nothing and let the entire population of the universe run out of resources and die, or I can snap away half the population and save the other half. So if you're Thanos, which is more moral? You know, let everybody die or half the people die, but you're directly responsible for that.
Is that a question for us?
Well, you guys can chime in anytime you want with any comments you have.
I think Thanos snapping is bad.
Good,
Thank you
very
for that.
good answer.
Number one,
Next one, Alan.
number one, like nobody knows for sure that the resources are going to for sure cause everyone to die. That's like speculation. So you're just speculating there. So I don't think you should kill half the like universe on a speculation. Like,
Yeah.
new technology comes out and you're able to feed more people. Like,
So you're saying he should have prepared a better presentation to the universe of like, guys, this is my evidence. that
yeah, I
it's
think you
real.
need like
Either that, if
concrete
you can
evidence.
snap your finger and kill half the population, why don't you
Yeah.
snap the finger and create more food and resources?
I haven't thought about that. That would be good.
That's a good point, Trav.
Yeah. What?
I have thoughts.
Take like
Dang
the more Christian route, and like, wasn't it Jesus that had manna fall from the sky?
Well, he could turn
Well,
water
he-
into wine.
He multiplied the fishes and the
Teach a man to fish. And
leaven, whatever.
Is that what it says in the Bible? He multiplied the fishes.
he multiplied
Yeah.
the fishes.
But no, yeah, that's a good point. But I think to Steve's point too, quickly is just yes. So if Thanos, there's no way you can know for sure. Like, how does he know that everyone's going to die? Because what if, yes, maybe there's a limited amount of resources, but what if 49% of the people die off because of a lack of resources, but then there's 51% that are still able to then, there's enough resources for them. So now you've actually saved the 1% of lives that got snapped away.
See, so this is interesting because so now what you guys are saying is that it's immoral if you are not 100% sure those 5 people are going to die. It's immoral to switch the track to kill the one person. Only if you are 100% sure the train is going to kill all 5 of those people, you would switch
Well,
the
but
track.
do you know for sure that it's
Not
going to kill that one
99%,
person?
not 90%. Yes,
are you-
for sure it's going to kill the one
but you
person.
don't know for sure it will kill the 5.
No, that's so now I'm saying because you guys just said if Thanos is not sure that
In this
everybody
other
can die.
scenario, this is what you guys are
So
saying.
I'm saying now applying what you guys just said about Thanos to the actual trolley problem. What you're saying is you have to be 100% sure, not 99% sure, 100% sure that all 5 of the people are going to die, or you will not
So
switch.
if you're
the track.
50% sure,
I
then you
think
know like 2.5 people are going to die
that's exactly
on average.
it. Like I think the way Steve and I think, it becomes a probability problem.
All right.
If you're 99% sure, then you have to look at it that 4.95
Okay.
people are going to
Yeah.
die.
Well, the train is going like 1,000,000 miles an hour, and you guys don't have time to sit there and analyze it. You just got to
Yeah, that's true.
split decision.
This is
But who would tell us then that there's a possible chance that these people would die?
Nobody.
5.
This is your decision.
Well, then how do we know for sure that the one person would die?
You don't.
you don't get any more information than what I've told you, Steve.
I know, but how do I know that one person will for sure die?
This is
Okay.
why
Because they're tied up on the track.
So give us
they could
the
survive.
They're tied up on the track. The train will hit them. There's a bomb on the train. It will explode simultaneously.
if the train
And-
goes over 55 miles an hour, the bomb sets. If it drops below, the bomb goes off.
so stay
All right.
above 50.
Well,
5.
should I just go on to the next example I have?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And this isn't, sorry, not all of them are pop culture. This one's out of history. So, World War II. We can, and we as the United States, we can either continue fighting the war the way we have been with Japan, and it will probably end with an invasion of mainland Japan, resulting in the deaths of millions on both sides, or we can drop a couple of atom bombs, killing a few 100,000 Japanese civilians in a great show of force to end the war now. Any comments?
Know what happened?
So was that a moral decision? Was that ethical to make the decision to drop the bomb? If you were in Japan at the time, you'd probably say no.
Well,
Anyways,
I don't
think
really
we'll
want to
move on.
talk about this because it's one American here against 3 Japanese. So I really don't
Actually,
think
no,
but if you're
it's 2.5 Americans against 1.5 Japanese.
okay.
So you're still in the majority.
All
Don't,
right,
Don't
thank
you
you.
fret.
thank you.
But yeah, I mean, I think, see, this is where it gets difficult. And this is why this is such an interesting problem or concept, is because
Any variable will change.
because you can go into it and be like, again, you can come down to the simple math, like, okay, there's a couple thousand people that will die, or there's potentially millions that could die, and you can use the same thing. Like, there's not 100% probability that millions of people will die, but there's probably pretty close to 100% probability that a couple thousand will die if you drop atom bombs on them. So, but then the bigger question goes, you have to like zoom out from the problem, because in a vacuum, if you isolate it to just those 2 variables, then yes, you have to be like, okay, you have to just kill the few thousand people in hopes of saving millions of lives. But introducing the atom bomb itself, the whole creation of nuclear weapons, is its own ethical issue and its own problem, because now you have something that can not only hurt thousands of people, but could potentially wipe out humanity off the face of the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
Where do we go from here?
So that's even
I think the whole thing is and I'm not gonna go into it a lot, but obviously we can take every single situation and you can add one more element to it, and it creates a whole different way of thinking. But I think that's kind of the whole point of the trolley problem, is just that in its simplest form, you might think you know what you would do, but then you start adding these different things, different ideas, different thoughts, and there is no right or wrong answer.
It basically becomes like infinite possibilities again. Like you can change it up an infinite amount of ways, and it'll change.
Dare I say it's an
I think
infinity war.
It'll change how you think about it morally, or it took me a second to get that one.
that was a good pause. Or good, but anyway.
But so we don't have to talk about all these. I just had a few more examples that I'll just really quick. So the Prime Directive, do you know what that is in Star Trek?
Yeah.
No.
So the Prime Directive, also known as Non-Interference Directive, is a guiding principle of Starfleet prohibiting its members from interfering with internal and natural development of alien civilizations. The Prime Directive applies particularly to civilizations which are below a certain threshold of technology, scientific, and cultural development, preventing starship crews from using their superior technology to impose their own values or ideals on them. So, in one of the Star Trek movies, Captain Kirk and crew, they have to decide, do they break the Prime Directive and use their superior knowledge and technology to stop a volcano from wiping out a primitive alien civilization, or do they break the Prime Directive and whatever the consequences of the future universe are, they have to live with that. Real quick, you could go back in time and kill Hitler, or you can either let history and present stand as it is, or you can go back in time and kill Hitler, and then you have to live with any consequences of how that changes the future.
Have you seen Back to the Future, Alan?
Yep.
That's all I'm going to say.
And the last one, this one might be political, but I call it the lesser of two political evils scenario. So I can either go out and cast my vote for candidate A, who I think is evil, but not as evil as candidate B, and try to stop the greater of the two evils from coming to power, or I can withhold my vote and keep a clear conscience because I didn't vote for either of the evil candidates. But with the caveat of knowing I didn't do anything to prevent the greater evil from being elected should the more evil candidate win.
You're talking about this last election?
So,
no, I was talking about the
I'm sorry,
election
I
of
didn't.
Lincoln.
I didn't hear anything past caveat.
Shut up.
So anyways, so that is the trolley problem. And my conclusion about like whether I would pull the lever or not, I don't know. And I came to the same conclusion as Travis and all you guys. It's just a gray area. It's not black and white. You cannot just say yes or no.
So, have you guys ever seen MASH? Did you ever watch MASH, the show?
Yes.
Like, I was not a big fan of MASH. That goes back to just kind of a troubled childhood, where every time the MASH song came on, that meant it was bedtime.
Oh,
So I hated it. But
it's PTSD.
yeah, it's like nah, 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 nah. I was like no. But I was having a discussion with a friend of mine a few years ago, actually, but he brought up MASH and he said there's an episode, and I don't know if you know this one out, Trav, if you watched it, but there's an episode where they're all having to huddle and hide from the enemy, like in a room, or I don't know if it was like under a building or where they were, but they were trying to be really quiet. But one of the women in there had a baby, and the baby started making noise, like crying, and so she had to make the decision between stopping the baby from crying
By smothering it.
yeah, or letting the baby cry, but then all of the people, including the baby in that room,
This was on MASH?
Yeah.
MASH was
It's
a comedy.
It's like a sitcom.
I know, I that's what I thought too. But he was like, this is like a really actually like dark segment of the show that like they put in there. And I think if I'm wrong, I apologize. But I think in the end, like it was super sad because she ended up smothering her own child. But that saved the lives of everyone in that room.
I just like look around everybody like, sorry guys, we're gonna die.
But yeah, like that's one of those things where it's like I don't know if I could do that. Like, I think someone would have to kill me first and then go from there.
Yeah.
She should have booked it out of there.
Just to move on, 90% of all people surveyed say that they would pull the lever and kill the one. Kill the one. But that brings up another question. That's what people say they would do. People always people always say they would do the altruistic thing in a hypothetical situation. What would they really do? How should we actually conduct real experiments? Well, not real as in people are actually going to die, but make people believe that the situation is really happening, and actually force them to choose in that moment.
And that's actually kind of what the whole episode was about, is because on The Good Place, is just because he talked about it as if like he knew what he would do, and so they kept putting him in the situation, and then finally at the end he admitted, he's like, okay, I don't know. I don't know what I would do. I've done all different scenarios, and I don't like any of them.
Yeah.
So, but anyway.
So what do you guys think we should actually conduct experiments? And because this could mess somebody up psychologically if they actually, whether it's fake or not, we make them think
what's
it's real.
What's the value of knowing what people would do?
So I'm glad you asked that, because I thought of that. I was like, why should we? I think the benefits, would be you would really gain an understanding of people's values. What do they really actually value? You could test relationships, if it's so you would have your control of just everybody's a stranger. Then you could test if it was 5 people against your child, or 5 people against somebody you know, or 5 people against an Asian person, 5 white people against an Asian person, 5 Asians against 2 black people, whatever. You could figure out where people actually in real life value other people, other relationships, and then you could start working on social problems in our societies. You could start fixing these difficulties that we have,
I think,
getting along, because
this is just
we
like
would
a very
really know, because you ask somebody, do you hate Asians? They're gonna say no. They don't want to say, oh yeah, I really
What's
do.
the value of testing that one person?
So you're not gonna get you're gonna get 90% of all real racist people saying I'm not racist.
This is just a darker version of Ashton Kutcher's punked.
So what I'm saying is you could there would be tremendous value for social aspects.
Yeah, I mean,
if you could get at the truth of what people psychologically, what people think about different relationships.
Yeah, I think that in itself has its own flaw, because yes, I understand what you're saying from an overall aspect of like if it could help society make better decisions or figure out better, more accurate data, then we can use that information. But the problem is you're going to get such a wide spectrum of data back from that, because if you poll 100 people, 4 of them maybe are racist, 7 of them don't like their own family member. Like, it's just, there's just this huge spectrum of things, but it doesn't say necessarily as a whole what's wrong with the society, because everyone in society is not going to not like Asians, or, so I think that becomes its own.
Well, I know you could
problem.
You could get a real. Never mind. You could get a real handle on the real percentages of these relationships.
Yeah. I think there's that. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think there's better ways to do it. Just go to the KKK rally and count.
You could say. I mean, obviously, you ask 100 people. 99% of them are probably not going to be like, homeless people are not as good as just like people with homes or whatever. They're, people aren't going to say they look down on homeless people. What if you could do an experiment where you have a homeless person on the one track and somehow have a control where, you can really test which one do they value more? Do they really value them equally?
Yeah. I mean, I think at this point we should start wrapping it up. But yes, I understand what you're saying, Alan. But they've also done this experiment in other ways that wouldn't be so traumatic to people and or expose them for certain things. But they've done an experiment on that Brain Games thing where they dress somebody up like in nice work clothes and then had him fall on the ground and see who would help pick him up. And like immediately, almost every time, like somebody would go, oh shoot, like I want to go help this guy. But then all they did is change it so that he like was a little disheveled looking, like his shirt was untucked and stuff, but he was holding a brown paper bag with but it was just really a water. But so they just did that and had him lay down on the ground and no one went to help him for like 30 minutes. So yes, like there's already those stereotypes out there and against people who think like, oh, that person's just a drunk or that person's just homeless or whatever. And yes, sadly it does exist.
Cool.
Okay. Trav, why don't we get into a little bit more uplifting, or maybe it's not so uplifting because the movies suck is what you said. But
was that not uplifting?
It was.
I like how you guys get so nervous around like any social discussions.
Deep. I wasn't nervous.
I don't think it was.
We were literally. This is a whole. That's what the trolley problem is about. Is morality, ethics, all that stuff. That's like you cannot talk about that with. Like I honestly couldn't talk about it without getting into some deeper stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it was a good.
I understand this is a podcast. We try to keep it lighter, but
I think it was a good conversation. I'm not saying that at all, but I think in the end we were starting to hash the same question over and over again.
Beating a dead horse, maybe.
That's all, Al. It wasn't anything against the fact that like it wasn't. I thought it was very interesting, and I would be more than happy to talk to you for another 2 hours on this after the podcast. But
I do not. I will be going home and going to sleep.
Yeah, I'll be asleep too.
But yeah, let's
I don't want to talk about that bad.
Let's talk about some movies.
So Trav's question: why do video game movies suck?
Uplifting music. It's like just means you did something good. You beat a level. You jumped up and touched a flagpole for some weird reason. I don't know what I'm not going to question
he just touched
what
it.
that.
He grabs it and
grabbed
pulls
the
flag down,
and all the way, and then goes into a castle, and then goes into another one.
Wasn't there a thing though, like if you could jump over the flagpole?
I think that is a complete and total lie. I don't know. We could probably look at it on. I've never done it either because I swear every time I got even closer that I thought that it would just automatically
grab it
and just throw you down. But anyway, I wanted to talk about this. I had another topic planned, and I guess it's probably a pretty good idea that I did not do this because I can go through this topic fairly quickly. But if you are a movie goer and maybe born sometime in the mid to late 80s and had a Sega Genesis, you might be familiar with a little character by the name of Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, big thing has been going on in that world. I don't know, have you guys seen the Sonic the Hedgehog trailer for the new movie coming out?
No,
yes.
But somebody told me that Sonic looked ridiculous.
So
by the name of Trav Cole, I think
I did.
Is it like an animated movie?
No, it's live action. Ooh. It's a live action. Eggman or Dr. Robotnik or whatever you want to call him is played by Jim Carrey. And so in the trailer, I mean, it was this big thing. I'm not huge into Sonic, but anyway, there was this big outrage from Sonic fans because of how horrendous the design of the iconic character was. But because of that, the film was originally due to release in November, but has now been pushed back to Valentine's Day 2020 because they're going to go back because of the outrage and redesign this character and re-release it. And some of the issues that have been discussed are things like the fact that when you look at them, I mean, the two characters from the the video game and cartoons to this do not look the same at all. His eyes are all messed up. They're not connected. I mean, I guess in the game, his eyes are all connected, but he's got these long, skinny ass legs, like human legs, and then he also has human-like teeth that apparently people freaked out about. So, things like that might be ticky-tacky, but it's important to people.
Is there actually pictures of this then? Or
Oh, yeah. You can see it. Things like this may be ticky-tacky to some people. It's very important for those fans that they get it right. I personally don't care. Yeah, I do think he looked weird, but I don't think he's going to by changing him is going to make the movie any better. I'm fairly certain it's going to flop. The critics are going to hate it, and it's just going to fall by the wayside with all of the other video game movies that have been released. So a little history on myself. I'm nearly 35 years old. Steven here will be 35 tomorrow.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Steve.
It's an hour away from my birthday.
Yep. So, you know what? Maybe I will just keep pushing and we can sing you happy birthday on this.
It's okay.
So we'll go for another hour. So I'm nearly 35 years old and been on this planet the whole time. Not an alien. I remember getting my first gaming console, which was the Nintendo Entertainment System. In fact, Super Mario Brothers was the first game that I remember playing, along with various others. Wanted to tell you guys a quick joke, though, about Mario. About Mario. So, and I cannot take credit for this. I heard it somewhere. So if it's not funny, it's not my fault.
I only take credit if it's funny.
But what material is Mario's overalls made out of?
Corduroy.
Anybody else?
Denim.
That is correct, but you said it wrong. It's denim.
Oh!
So
it's moments like that I wish I had a stuttering problem, because then I would have been right by.
Because if I would have had
happenstance.
36 years worth of stuttering, I would have gotten one joke correctly.
It would be worth it.
Would it be worth it at this moment? But from Nintendo, I moved on to Sega, where I loved playing games such as Sonic the Hedgehog and Street Fighter. For Christmas one year, I received the short-lived Sega CD that introduced me to the wonderful, gory world of Mortal Kombat. In 1996, I was introduced to my gaming future as my parents gifted my siblings and I a PlayStation Generation 1. And have never looked back. I've had a PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and as soon as the PlayStation 5 comes out, I'm sure I will be getting that as well.
Again, I gave Alan a little bit of a hard time on this, and I don't know what it is with me today, but just I got stuck now on you saying you were introduced, and I just picture in my head that like you walk up, you're like, "Hi, PlayStation, how are you?" And it's like, "Hi, Trav."
This is really you are getting hung up on little tiny things here. But I've spent countless hours playing classics like Tomb Raider, Prince of Persia. As the games became more advanced, I found myself enjoying more in-depth story-based games such as the Uncharted series, The Last of Us, and the Assassin's Creed games. So in my years of experience, I have yet to find a movie adaptation of a video game that does the game justice. Now, that's not to say I don't like some game or some movies that have been released, but let's take a look real quick at some games that have been turned into movies just to remind us of how sucky this has been in our whole lifetimes. So, and this is off of a list from Rotten Tomatoes, top 41. Now, I'm not naming 41. I only have 8 here because these are the ones games that I definitely played and movies that I've definitely seen. So, number 1, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, released in 1997, has a 2% rating.
on the tomato meter.
On the tomato meter. I think right now is currently rated the worst of all video game movies. And I pretty much agree. I mean, I haven't seen all of them, but Mortal Kombat Annihilation was a horrible, horrible letdown. And I believe all of you, I mean, because I remember us going to see Spawn, because this was back in the day before you could just go online and just Google when is Mortal Kombat 2 coming out. So we just kept assuming like, oh, we see a movie like Spawn, and we're like, I bet you Mortal Kombat 2's trailer would be in that. So let's go see that. It's considered the worst of everything, and I agree.
So just to tell you a little bit on that, Trav, because I was talking to Trav earlier, but basically what I did is I went through 37 different movies that were adapted from video games from 1993 through 2019. And I took both the IMDb ratings and the tomato meter ratings, and then I created a hybrid score between the two of them. So Trav saying that tomato meter had 2% on Mortal Kombat Annihilation. IMDb had a 3.7 rating out of 10 for that one. So overall, out of those 37 movies, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, according to my hybrid score, ranked the 4th lowest.
Oh, okay.
So, side note.
So it's not the worst.
Well, just according to my hybrid score.
What is your worst?
House of the Dead that came out in 2003.
Yeah, it's not on my list because I haven't seen it. And I also haven't played it. Number 2, Street Fighter, 1997 as well, 11%. This is the one with the muscles
Van Damme.
from Brussels, Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Is he still around?
Yeah, he's still around.
Is he still acting? 'Cause I haven't seen him in
JCVD. Yeah,
anything.
he was in an Amazon series not too long ago that was actually it was okay, but he played himself.
I really like John.
His new roles are basically him playing himself in things. So
kind of like in Friends.
Yep, basically. The sad thing about Street Fighter is that the guy who played
Giles.
No, the bad guy. I know his real name, but is it M. Bison or whatever? Raul Julia,
who's that also, the Russian character?
Well, no. He's just the main bad guy. I can't remember his name right now. But Raul Julia is the actor who played him, and he is holy crap, Addams Family dad. The guy who plays, that's him.
That's right.
The sad thing about that is that Raul Julia literally postponed his death to finish this movie. And I know that sounds weird, but he had terminal cancer and did his very best to finish this film. And then he died, and he gets 11%. So sad. Number 3, Assassin's Creed from 2016 had 18%. I fell asleep, and that's all I'll say about that one. Tomb Raiders, Angelina Jolie's Tomb Raiders, both got 20 and 25%. They're both plotless action cash grabs. Number 5 is probably the hardest for me. Super Mario Brothers, 1993. At the time, I was fine with it because I was in 3rd grade, but this one really hurts. Dennis Hopper, who plays King Koopa, actually, in my opinion, plays a great President Trump in that film because he looks exactly like him. And nobody knows what the freak the Goombas were in that movie. I mean, like, we know what Goombas are in the game. They're like little mushroom dudes.
Yeah,
but they were like hybrid dinosaur guys. They had like massive bodies with these tiny little heads. They looked like that voodoo guy or that
shrunken
head guy on Beetlejuice. It was ridiculous. Number 6, Prince of Persia in 2010. Now you're starting to get up to where like they're rated a little bit higher. They're still crap, but they're just better crap. So 37%. It was fun to watch, but it lacked a good, meaningful storyline. And then number 7, probably the best one of all, in I think all of our opinion, which is Mortal Kombat, the original, 1995. 46%. This one holds a special place in all of our hearts. Just to let everybody know, we in our youth decided that we were going to try and recreate this movie, word for word, shot for shot, moment for moment. And
little
Sound
handheld
effect for sound
camcorder at home.
the biggest copyright infringement you have ever seen in your life. And so we basically would just watch a scene and then we would try and hurry and memorize like all the words and we'd play each character like
Steve played Liu Kang.
Steve was Liu Kang.
I was Johnny Cage.
Who was I?
You were the
has
dude
begun.
with the thing on his eye.
No, that was Alan. Alan was Kano.
No,
I was Shang
he was
Tsung.
Shang Tsung.
Oh,
you were
Of course,
Kano.
of course, they made me the villain.
Yeah, you were Shang Tsung.
Because he had the trench coat on.
I
and
was
then-
Kano, but then I was also every other masked bad guy, which was like Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Reptile, because I had this work mask that kind of looked like their mask. So, but anyway, I think we only got like a few minutes into it because we couldn't. Technology back then, if we messed up, we had to rewind the video and then try and stop it, like right at the perfect time.
So there's a lot of like brief seconds of like a previous scene
of
that
just
we
us
just
laughing.
was cutting. Yeah,
And I can't tell you how many times we could not get through a scene without laughing. So,
we would make bone crushing noises with pieces of paper that we crush, and then we didn't have a switchblade because we couldn't afford one.
So we just had
Alan
a butter
had
knife.
a butter knife that he hid in his trench coat jacket that he would flip up at the same time. I would be in the background and I would cling together two more butter knives. And they'd be like, ching!
Yep. The special effects were amazing. And then number 8 was the most recent Tomb Raider in 2018. That and then Rampage with The
Rock.
The Rock are the only two that have over 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is 52. Now, you can argue that the new Detective Pikachu is I guess technically it is an adaptation from a movie or from a game, which is a Game Boy game called Detective Pikachu, but that got 66%. But I think that all Pikachu movies are not like
Pokemon movies, you mean?
or yeah, Pokemon, not Pikachu.
Yeah.
All Pokemon movies shouldn't be counted. But anyway, so that's that. Now, to end things, because I wanted to kind of take a little bit of a dive in and see what the real issue is. I have my assumptions, but after I kind of went through this exercise, kind of started feeling bad for all the people trying to make video game adaptations. So let's play a game.
I want to play a game.
Yes, I do. So, excuse me. I'm going to ask you guys 4 questions, and I'll give you the answers. And after you ask. After you ask.
Jeez. Kind of rude today, Trev.
After you answer them. All right. So, question number 1. Which aspect is more important in a movie when you're talking about a video game adaptation to the screen? Behind the scenes crew or a talented on-screen cast?
Behind the scenes crew.
Behind the scenes crew.
I would say behind the scenes. If they're like in charge of all the wardrobe and making
all
it,
of those.
Yeah, like
I
the
would say that.
storyline and the details and everything to make the world kind of come alive.
Okay. So it's kind of a trick question. It's not necessarily either. It's more of a balance between the two. So examples are basically like Prince of Persia, which had a high production value and a noteworthy cast. Jake Gyllenhaal was in that, but it still kind of flopped because it was just more of the value of the actor than it was anything else. So, okay, question 2. What kind of game story? So when you're looking at a game that you want to adapt to a movie, what type of game story would you pick? Would you pick more of an interactive story or a simple concept?
interactive.
So, so if you were to so if you're taking any game, you want a game that's either really detailed and in depth, or just so maybe like Mario would be simple, but Assassin's Creed would be more in depth.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say the more in depth, detailed one.
Do you have an answer?
I would
Do
say.
you even care?
I would say in depth, because then you have potential for sequels and stuff.
All right. Another trick question here.
I was going to say, then
both.
Then what is the movie really doing, other than just copying everything that the game did.
I mean, I can tell
the
you
game
what you
already
need
has all the
to
details.
kind of more stay away from is probably more of the more simple concepts. But you also want to stay away from the more in-depth concepts. So, for example, you have Warcraft that came out in 2016. Didn't you like Warcraft, Alan? Or was that StarCraft? You like StarCraft.
I used to play StarCraft.
Okay. So you played one of those craft games.
I never played World of Warcraft.
So Warcraft is a game that you could literally spend hours and hours. We're talking like up to 100 plus hours of gameplay to try and take that storyline and that just all that stuff and combine it and compress it down into a 2-hour movie. You're going to lose a lot from that.
Yeah.
But then you could take something such as the Need for Speed, which came out in 2014. The game Need for Speed is literally a car racing game. That is it. You race cars. There are no characters, really. There's no point to it, but race the cars.
I've
and
never
win.
played Need for Speed, so it's just actually like it's not like.
I mean, I'm sure
What's the one?
Gran Turismo.
No.
Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft.
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto, where you are driving around, but you're actually like trying to like
that's that
do other
one.
things, right?
Mhm.
But Need for Speed, is it just literally like
Yeah,
a track
you're just-
game? Like
yeah.
you just
Yeah.
go around a track or
Yeah.
whatever? Okay.
Pretty much. And they made a movie about that. And the problem was that there was no storyline to begin with, so they had to make one up. The other one was there was too much storyline and they had to compress it. So you want to make sure that you are getting right in between there.
But Fast and Furious
Is not a game.
but isn't that the same concept?
I guess. But
But
they
no
were
one's
able
mad
to,
because they didn't play
they
the
didn't
game
play the
first.
game. Yeah, I mean there might be a game now, but they probably adapted that from the movie, and that game probably sucks. So, okay, let's go to question number 3. So let's say you find the perfect game. How do you want to adapt it? Do you want to stick closely to the game script or get more creative?
It depends on if it's like a in-depth game or a simple game. If it's a simple game, you want to get more creative for a movie, obviously. If it's a super in-depth game, you want to try and hold true to as much as possible, but make it, entertaining for 2 hours.
I'm gonna go with. This
insane.
is a trick question. It's a little bit of both.
You guessed it.
Damn it!
I would second Alan's answer.
Gotcha again. So examples of this. So you stick too close to the material and you get something that happened like Assassin's Creed. I think they tried to really stay close to that, to the concept of the game, but those concepts really only work in the game. When they try and translate them to the movie screen, it just fell apart and nobody really cared. Or if you stray too far from the original storyline, then you get something, the unfortunate situation like Super Mario Brothers. You watch that movie, it has nothing to do with anything. They have some similar characters, like at least the names, but there was, I don't know, it was just super stupid and I'm very mad. So finally, and not really a question, but this was in the article that I read, but a lot of video games are interactive anyway, where you get to be the protagonist, which doesn't exactly translate to movie screens. So that's another reason. Like if they're picking something where you're pretty much the one that's playing it and you're the main character, it's not going to be that easy to translate. And I don't have an example of where that is, but
It's like Doom.
yeah, actually, Doom. Doom is a perfect example with The Rock.
Yeah.
First-person shooter, right?
Yeah, first-person shooters where you are the one that's doing all that. And I think like Hitman and things like that, although... Well,
Like
no.
I think at Doom, like they try to make it look like first person shooter at times.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
By
they
putting
did.
the camera angle like where you just see the gun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. It doesn't really have the same effect if you're
Now,
not playing the game.
In the future, with how virtual reality is going, it might get to a point to where, hey, you can go and watch a movie where you can pretty much insert yourself there. But that's, who knows? We're not even going to talk about that. So there's a lot of things after, like, going through all of this, I actually now kind of understand why we have so many crappy movies that come from...
Because it's hard.
Because it is. There's a lot of rules that you have to try and follow, and I think people get a little too cute. I mean, in the perfect world, I say stick as close to the storyline as possible, because when you get too crazy with it, you're getting away from what people loved about the game anyway. But stick pretty close to it, but but get a little creative. Yeah, I guess. So that's pretty much it for that. I do have one last thing that I want to mention, and then that is I vote that they redo Super Mario Brothers. So
Me too. Wait,
I think it's about
who was in
time.
Super Mario Bros. Other than the Koopa?
it
guy?
was
Who were the
Bob
actors?
Hoskins and John Leguizamo.
That's who it was. John Leguizamo.
They should have the new one released in 2023, and then it'll be like the 30th anniversary since the original came out in 1993.
You know what movie I did like that a lot of people didn't, and it wasn't exactly from a game to a movie, but Pixels. Did you
I
guys
heard
this
that.
Adam Sandler?
I heard that was pretty bad. I never
What?
saw it though.
I like.
Everybody
I've seen it.
hated it.
My kids
I thought
like
it was
it.
good.
Yeah,
It's for the kids.
little kids like it, and
Well-
Alan.
And well,
I mean, it has its moments that are okay, but for the most part, it's not a great movie in my opinion. But
Well, Trav, I'll pose this question to you. But do you think there's been more success going from movies to successful games?
I was gonna put that in there, but I knew that I probably wouldn't have time
Okay,
to talk
never
about
mind.
that. But I would say that it is probably fairly even because I think that like for example, one of them I was gonna throw out there was remember the Matrix when that came out, and they came out with a game that was called like Enter the Matrix, and you didn't even get to play Neo. You got to play that one Asian dude, and I'm sorry, guys.
that's rude.
Him and then
Wait, which
Jada
Asian dude?
Pinkett Smith. That's the whole point. You don't even know who it is because he's this side character in the second film, and it's so you didn't even get to play the people that you wanted to play.
Yeah.
And which was very annoying to me because I was super excited when they came out with that. And
I wonder if that was like a contractual rights issue, like where they couldn't quite.
and it might have been.
Because that would be the only way I would explain like why you can't play the main characters is if they couldn't get the rights.
But I guess my point is if you can't do it right, then why do it?
Yeah.
But anyway,
So, Trav, just really quick. So basically, here's just my quick 60-second theory on this whole thing. Now that you've gone through that whole thing and it's blatantly clear why it's so difficult to do it. But like I said, I put together that list of 37 different movies that have been adapted from video games since 1993. This is not all of them, but this is a lot. Most of the big name, the movies that made it into theaters, right? So in going through it, yes, they're for the most part bad or had bad ratings, both on IMDb and in the tomato meter. But overall, when I graph them all out, no matter which, if I take them isolated, just the IMDb ratings or the tomato meter ratings or my hybrid score rating, there is a slight trend line or correlation between that moves in an upward angle, which means that the movies are getting rated slowly over time better and better.
yeah.
So I'm thinking it was just such a young industry, video games itself anyway. They started making movies. They sucked at it, and then they've tried improving on it, and they're starting to figure things out, such as the things that you went over today. So I think like one of the things is like some of the biggest, most popular movies in recent history are based on books. Mm-hmm. Books have been around for a long, long time. So movie studios have probably been recreating books into movies for a long time, for 100 years now. But video games, they've only been able to do that for the last 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
So now they're just slowly getting there. And so perhaps 10 years from now, video game movies will actually be some of the best movies.
Well, and that's what I'm hoping. And in fact, in my notes, I said, don't stop. Just keep making them. They might keep sucking until all of a sudden they don't.
So they get the formula right.
Yeah. So, I mean, because I would like to see a lot of, my favorite games being, made into movies. So,
Yeah, I don't know if there are plans, but I just started playing Hearthstone again last week, and it's addicting because I used to play it. You guys know Hearthstone?
Yeah.
I've heard of it.
Like the card.
Danny's the one who
strategy
introduced
game.
it to me. Yeah, it's almost kind of like I think Magic, whatever, with the cards, but it's online, whatever. This last week I've been obsessed with it again. I just played one hand and then I was like, I'm hooked. So
Good luck
if
making
somehow they make a movie out of it.
Good luck making a movie out of that, though. I mean, I guess you could do it, but you'd have to really take liberties.
Yeah.
And just because it would be boring to watch a movie that was like playing cards.
Rounders is like your favorite movie.
Well, I don't watch the playing cards.
All right. Well, we've obviously gone really long, so if you have to listen to this in bits, you could probably break this up and listen to it throughout the whole week, and then when you get done, we'll have another one available to you. So, just want a reminder that we have our bonus episodes, our dream episodes that come out on Mondays. So we will have one of those coming out here in just a few.
Dream episode number 5.
Yep. So make sure to catch that. Subscribe wherever you can subscribe to our podcast, which is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and of course YouTube, which we do not want to forget that is apparently something that a lot of people like to listen to podcasts on. And then go to our website. If you have any comments other than make it shorter, go to our website and let us know what you think on any of these podcasts or any of these topics. Like, what would you do in the trolley problem? Anything else that you want to know about high frequency trading? And then, of course, if there's anything that I forgot as far as any movies that you've seen that have been adapted from video games that you actually liked or disliked, let us know.
Yeah,
And
Alan and Steve have made it really easy on the website too. You can
I was gonna say
comment right on the episode page itself, or Steve has built in Facebook Messenger portion that you can just click on and it'll automatically message us.
And now you can also leave us a voice comment on
Alan did
on any page on our website. So up to 30 seconds. So you just record your voice with any question or comments, and we can play it, listen to it, and respond.
So like this episode would be like 200 of those.
Yep. So also make sure to follow us on all of our social media pages, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at QCode Podcast. And thanks again, guys, for listening in. Don't forget to rate us and leave us a 5-star review if you could. And catch us next time. Thanks, guys.